Good morning, everybody. My name is Leroy Benton, and I have been invited to give you a little spiel about my life and, some of the lessons I've learned along the way and some of the hard knocks I've had to deal with. And I hope that you all will find some of this information helpful, give you a little bit of perspective, and also, kind of have some laughs along the way. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I guess the overall theme you could call this little spiel of mine is so long as I live, I fight. So, anyways, first lesson I had to learn at a very young age was not to fear death. And you may be thinking, what the world? Well, here's the reasons why. Um, Pretty much the entirety of my family tree, going all the way back to Scotland and Ireland, we were born fighting. We have base, and as far as my family here in the continent of North America, we've been fighting and dying pretty much in every single conflict that has happened on the North American continent, even before the U.S. was even a country. So for us, fighting and death is just part of life. Getting to me personally, well, when I was, a young kid, I had some sort of illness that resulted in me uh, going to the hospital, being put on a ventilator, uh, and the doctors wanted to pull the plug. But my mom said, no, he's going to make it. And of course, as you can clearly see, I made it. But again, that was a close call. I could have died in that hospital bed at a young age, and, I wouldn't have, been here. So, again, that was my first brush with death. The second time, death, came by my path, so to speak, was when a family member of mine, I won't say which one, attempted to commit suicide. And again, this family member almost, died as a result of that. But fortunately, this family member was able to recover, got the help necessary, and has lived a wonderful and full life since then. And then the third time that death came a knocking on my door, so to speak, was when my father, who was a veteran of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam Wars, he died of emphysema. He smoked Lucky Strikes unfiltered. Apparently back then the cancer issue wasn't so big of a thing. But he didn't die of cancer. He died of emphysema. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically, if you look at the biology of the lung, you have the lung body itself, and then you have what are known as, if I recall correctly, they're called alveoli. Basically, these small little sacs that attach themselves to the lung. And that's what allows the carbon dioxide to be extracted and the oxygen to be injected into the system. And if you destroy enough of those, it makes it very, very difficult for you to, function and whatnot. And yeah, so my dad died of emphysema. I saw him for the last time when I was about 8 years old, and I'll never forget, his last words to me. They were few, far, and in between, but it was, I love you. I am proud of you. You are the man of the house now. Take care of your mom and your sister. That was the last words my father ever spoke to me. And I've done my best to honor his last words to the best of my ability. So, when I say don't fear death, just to understand that it's just a part of life. You don't need to fear it. You need to respect it, obviously, and you need to understand it. But you don't need to fear it. Live your life to the fullest. And, do not fear death, because it's going to happen one way or the other. So just accept it and move forward with it. All right, next topic. I call this period of my life the Forge. And the reason why is because I had to go through a lot of bullying and name calling. And also, there were some formative things that I learned And one of those things is integrity. Integrity is you doing the right thing when no one's watching. Period. End of story. That's the boiled down version. But here's a practical example. My history teacher, when I was in middle school, wasn't in for one day, and we had a substitute. And the substitute was trying to give the lesson that my teacher had left, and the other students were being loud and obnoxious and just not very respectful. Well, I got sick and tired of it because, I was a good student. I always got good grades, and I really was trying to, hear what the teacher was saying so that way I could, pass the upcoming test. And then finally, I just got sick and tired of the other students being disrespectful and told everybody to shut up because they're disrespecting the teacher. They're disrespecting, Mrs. Mancini. That was our primary teacher. And I couldn't hear, and they're disrespecting me, and I didn't appreciate it. Well, needless to say, I got no shortage of, crap for being a quote-unquote goody two-shoes or a suck-up or whatever you want to call it. But the simple fact of the matter is that, again, I was sitting there just trying to do the right thing when everybody else was seemingly doing the wrong thing. And you as an individual have to make the choice as to whether or not you're going to do the right thing when everybody else is seemingly doing the wrong thing. And that's an individual choice that you've got to make yourself. I can't make that for you, and I don't want anybody else to make it for you. You've got to do it on your own. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's got to look yourself in the mirror and ask, did I do my best? Did I do the right thing? And if you can say yes, great. And if you can't, well, might be time to re-examine some things. Anyway, so middle school was absolute hell for me, as you can probably imagine, just simply because, again, I was an outcast even among the outcasts, if you can believe it. Every school has their cliques. You got their popular people, the jocks, the goths, the geeks, the nerds, whatever. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And even amongst all the other cliques, I was the one person that never was in any one of those cliques. So needless to say, I basically became, the proverbial shooting range for everybody's shots. And you know what? It toughened me up. It taught me stoicism. Now, a lot of people mistake stoicism as you not having any emotions. No, you do. You just control how you react to it. You control your emotions, and you don't present anything hinting at your emotions. Now, this is really tricky sometimes because a lot of people will mistakenly think you don't have any, but you do. But let me give you an example. There's a movie Tom Hanks did. I forget the name of it offhand. But anyways, it was talking about how he was trying to do a trade for a U-2 pilot that got shot down in the USSR in the 60s. And in order to do the exchange, he had to, basically hand over a Soviet spy master back to the Russians in order for us to get our U-2 pilot back. And, the one thing that always impressed me about that spy ringmaster was that, he would be asked by Tom Hanks, aren't you scared? He's like, would it do any good? And that's the thing. You have to be able to control your emotions and keep yourself in check, because there are going to be times when, yes, a righteous outburst is necessary, or letting your passion be known is necessary. However, when people are making fun of you or giving you a hard time or just being, dicks, well, you have no choice. That's when you got to sit there and just hunker down, show your poker face, and don't let them see anything else, because they are primarily doing it to get a rise out of you, and you don't need that in your life. All right? So you got to learn when to control your emotions and to put your poker face on and just, let people do what they're going to do. All right? I know it's easier said than done. Believe me, I get it. But at the end of the day, that's what's going to be necessary in order for you to be able to move forward. Because, if I had reacted to anything or gotten in fights, I would have made my situation a heck of a lot worse. And it just wasn't worth it. You have to ask yourself, is this person or is this insult worth getting into trouble over? Most of the time, it is not. Now, obviously, if somebody puts their hands on you, you got to defend yourself. That's one thing. But if they're just sitting there going blah, 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 you're just like, whatever. So, anyways. And then finally, when I went to high school at Fork Union Military Academy, I realized that my success really was on me. I mean, there wasn't anybody else that was going to do it. The teachers weren't going to do it. My parents weren't going to do it. It was up to me. So your success in life is really dependent on you. Now, yes, there are some factors that you have no control over, whether it's a bad boss, a bad job, the economy, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, who is responsible for your ultimate success and or failure in life? The answer? You. You are the ultimate, measuring stick, so to speak, as far as your success is failure, is your own individual efforts and your own individual work ethic to ensure your success. I went to Fork Union Military Academy being a great student, but I had to earn every single grade that I got. Here's an example. I am not a math guru by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I hate math. I despise math. Okay? And even in middle school and high school, for the most part, I never got above a B in any math class, whether it was algebra, geometry, algebra 2, didn't matter. Okay? Now, when I was looking at colleges, they were suggesting I take calculus, and I remember hearing horror stories about, how hard calculus was in high school and middle school. I'm like, nah. So I had to find an alternative. Well, I found out that apparently a good alternative is trigonometry, which, for those of you who don't know, is basically you could take algebra and geometry and mix the two together and voila. That's the boiled down version, obviously. But anyways, the point is, I found this as an alternative. Like, well, what's the worst that can happen? So I took a summer semester where I focused on nothing but trigonometry. And I got to class ahead of time. I stayed late afterwards. I obviously had study hall that I studied the entire time. And I took extra tutoring lessons from my teacher, throughout the entirety of that one summer semester. And you wouldn't believe it, but for the first time in my life, in my entire academic career, I got an A. Now, granted, it was an A minus, but it was still an A in a math class. And for me, I was just like, yes, I did it! Woo! Even to this day, I still consider that one of the highlights of my academic career, just simply because, again, based on my prior grades in math classes, I was just like, oh, thank you, God. But again, that goes back to what I was saying before. You are the ultimate factor and the end result of your own success or failures in this life. Period. End of story. You can't blame your boss. You can't blame your job. You can't blame your parents. Can't blame your upbringing. Can't blame your friends. Don't blame anybody else. Hold yourself accountable for your successes and your failures and accept them for what they are. Period. End of story. Speaking of hard decisions and having to live with them, that's something else that is going to be very key in life in general, not just in your career. And that is making hard decisions and learning to live with consequences of said hard decisions. Let me explain. So when I went to the Citadel, for college, I was going through my, what they call the knob year, i.e. freshman year. Okay. And I realized after my knob year that I was going to have to start paying for college. I didn't have the ability to do that. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just join the reserves in the Army and, get educational benefits that way. And I could still stay on track to go active duty, become an officer, yada, yada, down the road. That was my thought process at the time. However, I found out that my reserve unit was going to get activated and we were going to get deployed to go to Afghanistan in 2005. So I basically cut the first half of my sophomore semester short so that way I could join my unit, go overseas. When I came back, I had a little trouble adjusting to what they call garrison life, the inspections, the parades, the barracks inspections, all that stuff after being overseas where it's just like, we're just here to do a job. So I had a little trouble adjusting to that afterwards. But I said, okay, well, not all is lost. Let's take a break. We can continue to take courses that the Citadel will accept in the civilian world. I can get a little bit of, I can make a little bit of money on, doing civilian jobs and whatnot. And then, I can return. and I can finish up there. Well, that was my thought process, anyways. Well, didn't work out that way. Uh, I decide after my first tour in Afghanistan was really rough, and I may or may not have performed the best that I would have liked to. So I decided that I was going to redeem myself by going to Iraq for a second tour with a different unit, thinking that somehow that would redeem me. And granted, it redeemed myself in my eyes, but it never redeemed me in the eyes of my original unit. Obviously, they were grateful I made it and whatnot, but once that first tour was in their mindset and I wasn't able to go on the second Afghanistan tour in 2010 because I got put on a medical review board for injuries sustained in combat in Iraq. Unfortunately, that thing never set. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying beforehand, in Iraq, I got, obviously I got injured, came home, recovered, and then I had to take a really hard look at myself and say, I wish I could return to the Citadel, but I just cannot mentally get myself in that mindset of the garrison life. And then I found out that regardless of what was going on upstairs, it didn't matter because I'd aged out of the Corps of Cadets. They wouldn't allow me to return because of my age. So I was just like, well, there's that opportunity gone. Oh well, time to move forward and go back. Now, do I regret not, finishing at the Citadel? No. I made the best decision, based on the information that I had at the time and the circumstances I had at the time. And now I just have to live with it. And I mean, yeah, there may be a part that wishes, what could have been, but you can't live your life like that. The shoulda, coulda, woulda, wouldas, you can't do that. You have to press forward, make the decisions, the best decisions you have at the time with the best information you have at the time, and move on. And yeah, sometimes you got to make some heart-rending decisions that's going to suck. There's no way around that. But at the end of the day, you got to live with the decisions you make and press on. There's no point in looking back because you can't change the past. So just make the best decision you can with the best information you have at the time and be confident in that decision and drive on. That's really what you got to do. And there's no way around it. Anyways, moving forward, one of the things that I've had to deal with a lot in my life is betrayal. I first had to deal with betrayal from family members on my dad's side that stole money from his trust fund that he had set aside for me and my sister to go to college. And even to this day, I haven't seen or spoken to anybody on my dad's side of the family because of that. So you have to be very careful and just understand that not all blood is family and not all family is blood. There are going to be people in your life that you will consider family more so than your own family members. And that is based on trust and based on friendship and long-term, reliability. But just understand this, people. I don't care whether you're male or female or whatever. It doesn't matter. If someone betrays you, you cut them out of your life like the cancerous tumor that they are. And the reason why is because if they've done it once, they'll do it again. Same goes for lying or stealing. You can't tolerate that in your life. You cannot. Because if you do, you will get walked over. And you cannot do that. So you are going to have to make that hard decision. And believe me, sometimes it is very hard, especially if it's someone you care about or you love or whatever the case may be. But you have to stand firm on your principles. Because at the end of the day, you do not need any excess drama or nonsense in your life. Life's hard enough as is. You don't need more issues brought about to you because of other people. So just understand that when it comes to lying, cheating, stealing, or betrayal, one and done. Period. End of story. There are going to be times when, unfortunately, you're going to be put in situations where you have an incompetent boss or a, boss that doesn't care about you. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast. Like I've said before, there are assholes in this world in every job you go to. There's no way around it. How you deal with it and how you, handle yourself professionally, that is on you. You don't have control over other people, okay? But you do have control over yourself. So how you deal with it and how you deal with that situation is ultimately going to be a reflection on you, your professionalism, and your hard work, okay? So just understand that sometimes you're going to be put in a crap situation. The best thing to do is hunker down, focus on the job, get the job done, and then at the same time, assuming that this particular job is not what you're looking for, it's just like, a stepping stone or whatever, okay, start looking for other places to work. Or, if this is a stepping stone to something bigger within that same company, buy your time and then apply. Worst case scenario, line something else up at an opposing company that's better and go from there. All right? Trust me, you don't want to kill yourself for a job, because the second that you die, the job will sit there and have a placement in the paper the next day, and there'll be somebody trying to fill your spot. So don't kill yourself for a job. All right? Have the integrity to perform it well, to the best of your ability, and do the right thing. But do not kill yourself for a job, and do not allow yourself to be disrespected by anybody, regardless of who it is in management. There's a time and a place to fight those things. Not your best way to do it is that if you feel your manager was disrespected you take them off to the side and you say, hey, I don't like this, how this happened, blah, blah, blah. And most managers, they'll sit there and be like, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. But then there are some managers that be like, look, if you don't like it, you can leave. At that point, it's up to you whether you say, all right, deuces, I'm out. Or if you want to, or if it becomes an untenable situation in which you're just like, you know what, nah, this ain't worth it. You can just simply say, all right, I'm out, have a good day, and then just walk out. All right, obviously you want to try and do things professionally if you can, but sometimes you just have to say, to heck with it, I'm out. Because at the end of the day, your peace of mind and your ability to have your integrity and professionalism is the only thing you're going to have long term. And your word is your bond. Okay? Once you do not have your word, you don't have your integrity, and you have no honor in that regard, that's it. So, moving forward, that you have to be comfortable being alone. And why do I say this? Well, here's the thing. Not everybody here is going to get married. Not everybody here will stay married if they get married. All right? Let's not deceive ourselves. The divorce rate in this country is over 50%. So you have to sit there and take that with a grain of salt. But you as an individual have to be comfortable being alone. And why? Because at the end of the day, you only have you. Yes, you may have pets. Yes, you may have best friends, but are they going to be there all the time? No. Not because they don't want to, just nature of the beast. But you are responsible solely for you. So you have to be comfortable being alone. So take up hobbies, exercise, do some volunteer work, work on your apartment or your house or your car or whatever. You have to find ways to utilize your time wisely and effectively outside of work. Because if the only thing you have is work, the second you lose that, it's going to cause a crisis of identity for you. And you don't want that. You want to have something other than work to be able to, fill up your life. Now, eventually, if you do get married, hey, great, happy for you. But just, again, keep in mind what I told you beforehand. The lying, the cheating, and the stealing, and I don't care who it is. I don't care if you are married to a man, woman, both, whatever. Hey, you do you, boo-boo. It's your life. But understand this. The core principle remains the same. The first lie, the first cheat, the first steal, the first betrayal, that's it. You cut them out of your life. And it has to be that way. Because if you don't, they will not respect you if you take them back. It just will not happen. So you have to hold firm to your principles, and you have to do right by you, ultimately. Because again, at the end of the day, who do you have to look in the mirror? Yourself. Okay? And, speaking from personal experience, I spent 10 years, with with a woman who I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Didn't work out that way. I won't give you the details. I won't bore you. But suffice it to say that that was 10 years of my life that I wasted. And yes, it was in fact a waste. But again, once I realized it, I made that hard decision and I stuck by it. And I was at the lowest of the lowest point of my, life. But when I tell you, when I left that state where she's at, I started a new life. I was like a phoenix rising up from the ashes. I was coming back, and just like that AC/DC song Back in Black, oh yeah, that was me. So, starting over, I had to find a job. I had to get everything transferred over. I had to start over literally from the ground up. And I had my successes and my failures. You know, um, the first year, I managed to sit there and, pay off everything that I had from my divorce decree. Second year, I managed to pay off 4 debts in the course of a year in full. Um, you know, I lost one vehicle due to a drunk's actions, and I wasn't in it, by the way. But again, I didn't give up. I kept pressing on. And now I only have less than, now I have minimum debt. I have my first house. I have my dog. I have a good career. And I've been invited here to, speak to you, to tell you, about my life and about the hardships that I've had to deal with. The VA has not been a pleasant experience. They've lost paperwork on more than one occasion, to the point where I've had to get congressional, you know, congressmen involved to do investigations, and then they finally fix themselves. I've had military commanders that have, blatantly put my brothers and sisters in harm's way, causing them to be killed. And the Army obviously didn't do anything about it because it's the Army. But, at the end of the day, out of all the stuff I've gone through, I am still here. And I'm still pressing on. And you may be wondering, well, what are you doing now? I mean, what is your purpose in life? And the God's honest truth is this. My purpose in life is to live my life as long as I can and as well as I can for whatever time I have left in honor of my brothers and sisters who are not here with us. They didn't give up. They didn't have the luxury of giving up when that time came. And, they, cannot celebrate the holidays. They don't have, the families that that they either had or, wish they had or anything like that. So I have no right to complain about anything going on in my life. I mean, it's one thing to vent, but complain, yeah, no. Because, I just want to make sure that I live my life as best I can, and long as I can, in honor of them, because that's an opportunity that they just never had. So, I work, I live my life, and I do my best to honor my brothers and sisters' sacrifice and live my life in a manner in which I hope makes them proud. So, in conclusion, what are some of the things I want to leave you with today? Number one, don't fear death. It's a part of life. Accept it, move forward, respect it, but don't let it control you. And don't let the fear of it prevent you from living your life. Second, stoicism. Control your emotions. Don't let, yourself become overwhelmed by them. Because, again, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you control yourself and that you accept the situation for what it is, and then you can deal with it, in a healthy way down the road. But again, at that moment of truth, just control it, harness it, and put that as fuel to drive forward towards a purpose. Don't accept betrayal or tolerate it. One and done. That's it. Period. End of story. Be comfortable being alone. You're going to be alone for a majority of your life. And even if, hypothetically speaking, you do get married or you do wind up, having, friends and whatnot that you hang out with, still, at the end of the day, you're going to be alone 9 times out of 10 more than likely. So you have to be comfortable with it. And understand that you do not need somebody else to be fulfilled. Okay? You need to be able to have that feeling of fulfillment in your life and in yourself. Okay? So just make sure that you are comfortable being alone. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to be alone more often than you think. And finally, the biggest thing is you are still alive. So you fight. You ain't dead. Keep fighting. You are owed nothing in this world. You deserve nothing in this world. You are going to have to fight for everything in this world that you want. And I don't care whether it's a career, money, cars, things, whether you want, a husband or a wife or both or whatever, you're going to have to fight for those things. Because again, what is everybody else fighting for? Pretty much the same thing. So understand the competition is stiff. But the thing that is that you have to sit there and possess the discipline, the loyalty, and the integrity to maintain yourself in order to ensure that all these things, when they do come, is based on your own individual efforts, nothing else. So understand this. You are going to have to work for everything you want. Period. End of story. Anyways, I hope that this will kind of give you the benefit of my experience and, hopefully you've learned some things. And if you're interested, I'd be happy to answer any questions, assuming we have time. Thank you.